Hello. I think everyone knows by now that foundation courses have been suspended. So even though there is no coursework for us to do, we have to remember that you are still KYS students and we are still KYS teachers, and IELTS is coming. So there's a big exam due on the 10th of April. It's a very important exam and you do need to be prepared for it. There is a possibility that the exam will be postponed, but we don't know that. At the moment, the date that we have is the same as it's always been. I think April 10th, isn't it? So you need to prepare for IELTS, and now is the time to be doing that. So I think everybody would benefit from reviewing IELTS reading and listening. And there are lots of sites where you can practice IELTS reading tests and IELTS listening tests. I've sent you some links, and you also have access to all your previous student guides and course outlines where there is a page of IELTS resources for you to refer to. Some of them might be out of date now, but you should have your own bookmarked sites, your own favorite sites that you like to go to. IELTS reading and IELTS listening are really useful for you to practice because you can get instant feedback. You will know exactly where you are in that part of the IELTS exam. You can take your percentage and you can convert it to an IELTS band score, and you do need to be a minimum of 6 at your lowest, and you can't go lower than 6, right? So if you're finding that there is any section in the reading test or the listening test that you always find difficult, then now you will know what it is because you've been doing the practice and you've found out that some parts are hard. So you can ask for advice. You can ask your friends who you study with. You can ask your teachers, and we can all advise you and give you tips to try and help you overcome the problems in the reading or in the listening exam. Now you've got time for this. There is no excuse not to do this. You're at home, and if your parents are telling you to do other things, you can. I think it's quite fair for you to say, I've got to study for IELTS because if I don't pass it, it's going to cost 800 ringgit to sit it again. And if you are confident that you will get the minimum 6 that you require, well, good for you, but you need to think about if that is good enough. Shouldn't you be aiming for a 7 or a 7.5 or an 8? Shouldn't you be using this opportunity to refine your IELTS reading and listening skills to bring your overall band score up higher? As well as listening and reading, there's writing and speaking as well. Now this is a little more tricky because you do need to have objective and some sort of detailed feedback on this. There are students with that we have been in contact with, and we want to practice writing, and we've been doing this for quite a few weeks now, and let's continue with that. That doesn't change, we're still doing that. Other students, if you haven't been contacted about your writing, then there's no reason why you can't try and improve it on your own. There are lots of IELTS sites. I'm sure you got some favorite ones. I like IELTS Liz and IELTS Buddy myself, but you might have different ones that you like. You might go straight to the British Council site, I don't know. Read what people say about the IELTS writing tasks. Read about strategies. Read about likely topics. Read about model answers. Become very, very familiar with the IELTS writing tests, task 1 and task 2. And when you have done a lot of research, watched some videos, read some articles, looked at some model essays, then have a go and write an essay and send it to me, task 1 or task 2. I would appreciate it, I would very much appreciate it if when you wrote your essay, you took the 20 minutes maximum for task 1 and 40 minutes maximum for task 2 and no longer. And you didn't look up any grammar or spelling or synonyms online. You did no research about effects of tobacco or something like that. You just wrote it off the top of your head within the time frame, the allowed time frame. And that will give us a very honest picture of, where you're at, and the feedback will be a lot more useful to you. IELTS speaking, you can do that. We have the technology, right? You have your study groups. Why not make online meeting, FaceTime, and practice speaking? You need some structure. You need to pre-arrange some questions you'll ask each other, some topics that you will talk about, how best to discuss them. But you can meet online and you can practice IELTS speaking online. When you've done that, your group can contact me and Zoom me in or invite me into your whatever platform you're using, and I can give you some feedback on your speaking. So that's up to you, right? Writing and speaking. Do some research, have some practice, and then get me involved. And I want you to do this. I want you to practice, and I want you to get me involved in it. We got quite a few weeks to go before the IELTS test, and studying IELTS day in, day out, 24/7 is very boring. It'll get pretty old pretty quickly. You need to do it, but don't make it your everything. I think this is a good time for you to read in English, of course. This is going to be the difference between your language learning and your language acquisition. You have the opportunity with this big chunk of time. Your academic calendar has been wiped clean. You've got nothing to do apart from IELTS. And doing IELTS alone will get pretty boring pretty quickly. So you need to do something else as well. And I think that something else should be reading for pleasure. Reading for pleasure in English. Now, in order for this to actually boost your language skill, you need to fulfill 3 conditions with your reading. The first condition is the quantity of material that you read. You must be reading a lot of stuff over a range of topics. So quantity is very important. And the second thing is not exactly quality, but understandability. You need to be able to understand everything, or 99%, maybe 98% of what you're reading. It has to be accessible. It has to be easy to read, so you can churn through it and get the information that you want. And the third thing is, it must be interesting to you. You must read about things that you find fascinating. Otherwise, why would you, right? So we are reading for knowledge, not for language practice, not for practicing prefixes or noticing verb form. We're just reading for fun and information. So if you want to read about famous footballers, read biographies of sports people, if you want to read the plot synopsis of your favorite drama or the character development of some soap show that you like to watch, if you want to read about the politics behind Grand Prix car racing or what's happening in the Olympics, if you want to read about celebrities, read it. If it's too difficult, stop reading it, find something easier. I don't know if you know this, I think you might do. On Wikipedia, there are language options. One of the options is Simple English. Have a look at that. See if there are any articles there that you're interested in and read them. So You're going to be busy over the next few weeks doing IELTS, doing reading, keeping English at the forefront. Please keep in touch with me and let me know how you're going with it. It's one last thing. This video is getting quite long, but one last thing. English-speaking people have a myth about Chinese language. English-speaking people think that, or they say that, in the Chinese language, they use the same word for crisis that they use for opportunity. So I thought, I wonder if that's true. You hear it a lot, right? So I Googled it and, oh, hang on, I got two different words here, one for opportunity and one for crisis. So maybe that is a myth. Maybe the Chinese don't use the same word for opportunity as they use for crisis. But here's the thing. This is a crisis. It's a global crisis. It's a health crisis. Education is in lockdown, businesses in lockdown, airlines are in lockdown, countries are in lockdown. It's a very serious situation. You don't need to panic, we're all in it together, but it is a crisis. The question is, can you or I or can anyone, can we find the opportunity in this crisis? Now for you as students with the IELTS test coming up early next month, this is obviously an opportunity, right? And we must take it. So take this opportunity. Practice and practice and practice. Email me. I am available. I've got no coursework to teach. I'm just here for your IELTS, okay? Give me work to feedback on. Ask me for advice. Stay in touch. Show me what you're doing. And at the end of this, when everyone's got very high IELTS band scores, it would have all been worth it. So I will stay in touch. I do hope that you will stay in touch. Keep your social isolation up and take advantage of this opportunity to do well in your IELTS exam. Okay, thanks very much for watching this long video, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.